Happy New Year! Happy New Year to the chosen ones and all of the fellow empaths out there. This year is going to be a year of expectation, and we are expecting awesomeness. We're expecting to be released from all of the things that have us bound, that have had us bound previously, including generational curses. And I'm going to touch on that subject here today, and I'm going to talk about a symptom of a generational curse that plagues our community particularly. So let's get into that topic. So today I want to talk about something called touch aversion, and we're going to get into the definition of both of those words before I start to tell you about how it specifically relates to my life. So to touch means to come in contact with, to bring your hand to another body part or the part of someone else. Aversion is a strong dislike or declining. So the symptom that I have is called touch aversion, which basically means I don't really like for people, especially strangers, to touch me in any way. It's commonplace for even strangers, like if they're having a conversation with you, to lightly tap you on your shoulder or touch your arm, or if somebody is laughing and they find something funny, they will kind of slap you on your arm. All of those things I have a dislike for. Another thing that makes me shrink and withdraw is when people hug me. So I'm not able to receive hugs in the way that I would like. I kind of go limp actually when people hug me, and um, it's just an involuntary response. I don't think I can control it at this point. So most of the time, it really doesn't matter who is doing the hugging. It could be a stranger, it could be a family member. I will kind of either go limp, or I would kind of withdraw or shrink back, and I'm not able to give my full self in the hug. I've found that the only person I can sincerely hug is my son. I'm completely open with him in both giving him hugs and receiving hugs from him, and I don't have any touch aversion when it comes to hugging my child. I feel that the touch aversion is rooted in the childhood trauma that I experienced, and it's two different variations of that trauma, and I'll get into those in a second. So, the best way that I could describe the touch aversion for me is just disconnecting, disassociating, not engaging when someone reaches out to give me a pat on the arm or a hug or even a kiss on the cheek. It's a shrinking and a withdrawing, and it makes me uncomfortable. And and essentially, I'm not able to connect with the person in general. And I think that that comes from two areas in my childhood that involved trauma. So, um, having an emotionally unavailable guardian, that's where I didn't get hugs and kisses. I didn't get a lot of affection. So it just got to the point to where I didn't know how to receive it because I never got it. And the second thing that contributed to my touch aversion was being touched inappropriately at a young age. And when I say young age, I mean between the ages of 5 and 7. The inappropriate touching that I received is referred to as fondling, and it was it was at the hands of a young adult. Fondling is defined as caressing or stroking erotically, which is very inappropriate. My earliest memories of the fondling situation, and I remember while being touched inappropriately, I yelled out to a guardian to come to help me. And they did come into the room while it was happening, but I wasn't saved or rescued or taken out of the room. And when I process that and when I think back through it, I believe it was because we needed a place to stay. So the guardian looked the other way because of that, is what I came to realize. So the fondling with this adult occurred more than one time, more than 2 times. And between the ages of 5 and 7, I did have more than one occurrence or situation that involved fondling. There was an older child that lived next door to us when we finally got a house to live in. And I was sent over there and I wasn't supervised, you know, and my pants were pulled down and I was fondled. Another situation happened on a school playground with teachers around. I was probably about 7 at this time, and there were a group of 10-year-olds outside with us and a group of boys, 10-year-old boys, probably about 4 to 5 of them, grabbed me, took me behind a dumpster, pulled my pants down, and groped me and fondled me and all of that. And if it wasn't for a cafeteria worker coming outside to take the trash out, there's no telling what else would have happened. So with the last few fondling incidences, I knew enough not to say anything. I didn't tell the guardian because I didn't feel like I would be heard or that it mattered anyway, so I didn't say anything. And so I kept those things in and repressed them. It wasn't until I saw the Antoine Fisher story, the movie, it wasn't until then that I started to feel some sort of healing as it resulted to, what happened in my childhood. I felt like finally there is someone with a similar story. Finally, someone that I can relate to, and was so happy to see it, spelled out, talked about on a big screen. He was also left with an abandonment wound because his mom wasn't there. And he went into the foster system. And he also knew what it felt like to be violated at such a young age. He was also molested and fondled, at a very young age, too young to process it. And it too caused him to be withdrawn and repress his emotions and things like that. Caused him to even be angry, and have angry outbursts and things like that. Caused him to be picked on and bullied. All the things I could totally relate to in that movie. And how closed off he was and how it was hard for him to talk. He needed to talk, but it was hard for him to do so. Hard for him to trust. And finally, he opened up to his therapist and he started to begin his healing journey. And even him with his girlfriend, he liked this girl. It took him a while to connect with her, both verbally and physically. And when it was time to make a physical connection with her, it was obviously very difficult for him. He had some struggles there. And, she had to help him through that. So it's really refreshing to see him be vulnerable finally, and to see him work through his issues, to see him process his emotions. And one of my favorite scenes in the movie is when he is in the mirror in the bathroom talking to himself. And, that's where I felt like I could totally relate to him, because it's not crazy to do that. I mean, it was necessary for him to do that. Who's going to talk to that little boy on the inside of him? Who's going to help him build up his confidence, reassure that little boy, the little boy that never got reassurance, at the age that he should have? And so he had to begin to parent himself and counsel himself. And I thought that was a beautiful thing. And also, when he began to write poetry, he wrote a poem about the little boy on the inside of him that was touching also. I could relate to that too, because when you do this repression and you don't talk, you have to get it out somehow. And so I do that too with writing. I write poetry as well. So it was just a relief to be able to watch a movie like that and find myself in that movie. It did a lot for me. It opened my eyes and it made me feel like I wasn't alone. So, fast forward to my marriage to a narcissistic person. There's touch coming up again, but it's bad touch again. And this time it's forceful touch, it's physical violence, it's punching, slapping, you know, bruises to my face, concussions. So there's lots of bad touch in addition to forceful touch. Narcissists got some kind of excitement out of being rough in the marital bed. And if you let him know that he was hurting you, it wouldn't be met with sympathy or empathy. He would just tell you to be quiet. He would literally shush you, tell you to take it. That was it. And it was just unbelievably rough, unnecessarily rough, unthinkably rough. So it kind of leads to you just not being able to express yourself properly. It's like it's a catch-22 almost, it seems. It's like there's a part of you that does want to, get a hug from someone and receive, affection. And then there's another part of you that, even though you want it, you don't even know how to receive it. And you definitely don't know how to initiate it. The best way I can describe it is that guy on the Dave Chappelle show when everybody's dancing in the club and he's like looking at the ceiling, all robotic, like, that's how I feel when it comes to like initiating any kind of touch with someone, in an intimate way. It's like I don't know what to do, you know. And I think it's sad, but it's something that, I'm gonna have to work through. It's behavior that has to be unlearned. And I think that it's just going to take trust. It's going to take trust from within myself, and it's going to take trust from my actual kingdom godly spouse. And all this hurt that we have locked on the inside of us, that's where we have to ask God to come in and heal all of that pain and release us from those shackles that try to have us tied down and burdened down. To release us from those repetitive cycles, to release us from the spirit of perversion, the spirit of lust, all those things that try to constantly come after us, even as children. We have to ask God to heal our minds, heal our souls, heal our bodies from all of that pain and trauma. There's nothing too hard for God. All we have to do is make our request known to Him. Take it to God in prayer. God says He will heal the brokenhearted. He will bind our wounds. And He will wipe away our tears. This is why He says, cast your cares upon me, for I care for you. Because some things are just too heavy for us to carry. We got to give it to God. For any other soul out there that's carrying this type of pain, I pray your heart be healed today. I pray your soul finds rest beyond the river. If any of the type of things that I talked about in this video happened to you in your childhood, know that it wasn't your fault. And know that God loves you. You are never alone in Jesus. He is your protector. He is a God of peace, and He will give you peace. You will be restored in Jesus' name. You can escape all of the pain and trauma from your childhood. You can come out of the darkness and move forward into the marvelous light.